Venom: The Last Dance has been out for about a week now. I was finally able to check it out yesterday, so here are my thoughts on it. Hello everybody, my name is Jesse and welcome to my channel. Venom: The Last Dance is the third and probably final entry in the Venom franchise. I was finally able to check this movie out, so today I'm going to give you my thoughts on this movie. I was pretty down the middle with this movie. I actually wasn't really a huge fan of this movie. I've considered dropping my score actually quite a bit since seeing it last night. And to get some of my points across on what I didn't like about this movie, I will have to go into some spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie yet and you want to go in blind, maybe don't watch this video. Just this is your warning, you will be spoiled. So before I get into a lot of the things that I did not enjoy about this movie, I will start with my biggest positive, and that is the relationship between Eddie and Venom. If you liked their relationship, their kind of bromance, if you will, their bantering back and forth, if you liked that in the first two movies, you do get that in this movie as well. There are some great moments between them, and there is some really fun back and forth with them, but there's also some kind of endearing moments a little bit where it gets a little bit more serious, which I did enjoy. There's some really cool action in between with like Venom kind of taking over other animals to escape, like we saw in the trailer with the Venom horse. That is in here, and it was actually pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. But that relationship, that back and forth between Eddie and Venom is really the biggest positive that I can give this film. So now I'll get into kind of the main things on what I did not like about this film. Again, I will be going into some spoilers, so that's your final warning. And the first thing I'll say is this movie is about an hour and 49 minutes, and the credits are quite long. I think they're about 10 minutes of credits. So really, without the credits, it's about an hour and 40-minute movie. But it feels like it's very slow moving and boring, especially in the first two acts. And it feels like it meanders a lot and really doesn't accomplish much, to the point where I walked out of the theater and me and my friend that I saw it with both looked at each other and we said, what really just went on? Did anything actually get accomplished? The entire plot basically revolves around Eddie and Venom now being fugitives from Venom Let There Be Carnage after supposedly killing Patrick Mulligan. And so they're both forced to go on the run. And at the same time, this kind of big bad that's lurking in the shadows, Noel, sends these aliens, I don't know what they're called, I don't even remember, but he sends this alien after him because Eddie and Venom have this thing called a codex that happens when the human and the symbiote are fully bonded together, and Noel needs that codex to escape from this sort of prison that he's being held in that he can't escape from. So at the same time, there's these Area 51 soldiers that are after Eddie, and there's this alien that is after Venom, or really both of them, I guess. But so they're on the run for the entire movie, and the plot is essentially just them moving from place to place, trying to escape the things that are hunting them. And they don't really have a solid goal in this movie. They don't really have an official thing that they're trying to accomplish. There's nothing that they're really after. They're just trying to be safe. Their biggest goal in this movie is to get to New York so they can see it. And so every time they stumble upon something that can, like a place that they can hide, it just essentially turns into a whole new subplot within this movie. So the more I think about it, the movie really feels like you're just moving from subplot to subplot the entire time. Our heroes don't really have a finite goal, like I said. And so there's a whole subplot where Eddie and Venom stumble upon this kind of like hippie family, which was probably my favorite part of the movie. The dad is played by Rhys Ifans, and he's an absolute scene stealer. His name is Martin. Probably my favorite character in the movie, to be honest. He was silly, he was funny, and he also had some great moments at the end. And so it just turns into a moving from place to place the entire time, and it just didn't feel like anything was accomplished in the movie at all. The other thing that really brought this movie down for me was the super weak villains. There's no depth to any of them. They are paper thin characters that are just there to move the plot forward. Chiwetel Ejiofor plays the main kind of soldier that's after them, and he gives it his all because of his tone, because of the way that he can deliver certain lines. It gives a little bit more oomph to because it's him playing it, but at the same time, we don't know anything about him. He's just a random soldier that is after them because Venom killed one of his soldiers that he sent after them. And then at the same time, there's this scientist that is studying the symbiotes that they're holding at Area 51. And the only thing we get about her is a flashback via a nightmare she's having of her brother dying. That's it. And like I mentioned earlier, Noel, he just stays in the same place the entire time. He's just a villain that, like, he's one that has this big giant plan to take over the universe. But I mean, the more I think about it, it makes sense because he was stuck in the prison, but still, he's just one of those almost generic villains that kind of stays in the shadows and sends its henchmen after the heroes instead. And probably my biggest problem with this movie was the third act. I've seen some people that really liked the third act because it does have a lot more action than the previous two movies. But I was not a fan of the third act, and that is because it contradicted a very big point that the first and second movie made. And in the first Venom movie, they made a very big point that only certain people can be compatible with a symbiote, and if you can't reach symbiosis, then the symbiote basically feasts on your organs and you die. In this movie, they really made it feel like anybody can have a symbiote simply for plot convenience, for exposition dumps, and so that we can have a big CGI battle at the end. And so the entire third act turns into a bunch of scientists being taken over by the symbiotes being held at Area 51, and all of them are fighting against these aliens that Null sent to Earth. And it's a big CGI mess battle that, again, I didn't feel anything. I didn't really feel stakes, and maybe other than the last 10 minutes. And that brings me to another thing that I didn't love about this third act. And emotionally, it just didn't click for me, and it was not executed well, in my opinion. The biggest spoiler of this review, Venom does die in this movie. He sacrifices himself to save Eddie so that Null can't get the codex. And it's supposed to be an endearing moment. It's supposed to be emotional. They end the movie with kind of like a montage looking back on Eddie and Venom's best moments from the previous two movies. And it wasn't doing it for me. I didn't really feel anything. I almost didn't even care. And I just don't think on an emotional level, it wasn't executed properly. So overall, I wasn't really a huge fan of this movie. I probably won't ever really get a big urge to go back and rewatch it, and it may even go lower on my list as the year goes on. We'll have to see. At least this movie was better than Madam Web, right? That's really all I have for you today in this video. Thank you for watching. If you've seen this movie, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I got a lot of other content coming, so stay tuned for that. And until my next video, like this one, subscribe to my channel, help me reach my goal of 350 subscribers, and keep watching movies.